Welcome to In Edina, a program about the people, places, and activities all connected to the city of Edina. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. We bring you a broadcast all about environmental health concerns. And we kick it off with our very first guest, Sherry Engelman, Community Health Administrator from the city of Edina. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Lillian.
Environmental health? Does that fall under the public health world?
Yes, it does. And you say that with a question mark. It's an invisible profession. People do not know what it is. Environmental health deals with issues out in the environment that affect people's health.
Okay, so public health concerns itself with public health issues like, well, the flu, getting immunizations.
Public health is more community health issues.
Okay.
Immunization, clinics, etc.
Okay, and then we have emergency preparedness, which deals with pandemics and
Right.
potential pandemic situations. So you work with residents and businesses here in the city that may have any environmental health concerns. Just name a couple concerns they may have.
Yeah, some of the things that we do in environmental health, we have a delegation agreement with the state of Minnesota, and we license public facilities by the delegation agreement, and that gives us the authority to inspect and enforce on those facilities if there needs to be corrections made.
So the kinds of facilities you inspect are most often restaurants, right?
Restaurants, food, beverage, lodging, swimming pools, daycares, schools.
Wow, there's a lot of facilities
Yes.
that you have to license. So once you have a license, if you own or operate one of these types of facilities, then you are inspected. How often?
We inspect the high-risk facilities once a year. Often it's twice a year just because we choose to do that and become more familiar with the operators and ensure that they are following what they need to do.
You know, a lot of this may be enforcement, but really it's important that you are building relationships with these businesses, for instance.
Yes, you know, it's much easier to accomplish what needs to be done if you get to know them one-on-one. If their emergency comes up, they call you, you know each other by first names, and much easier to accomplish the task just because we're all in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
We're family here, we're at the local level, and it's much easier to accomplish things.
And that's a nice part about the relationship between working from city to county to state level is each of you play a role and you help each other out. Like foodborne illnesses, they don't just stay in the city of Edina if they pop up, they may creep out.
That's right. Often there will be an investigation ongoing, and we are partnering not only with the State Health Department, but Minnesota Department of Agriculture, and also other surrounding health departments in an accomplished task.
Okay, so let's take them one at a time. If you're talking about restaurants, what is environmental health looking for when you go into a restaurant? What are you checking for?
And we have quite a laundry list for our checklist when we go in, but we're looking for personal hygiene, or we're looking at food handling procedures. We're looking for certified food managers and their certification. Are they properly trained to do this kind of work? We're looking at the layout of equipment and do they have the right type of equipment? We're looking for infestation issues. We're looking at condition of the building. There are a variety of things that we're...
And those are done on an annual or sometimes more than once a year.
Yes,
right?
and then if we get a complaint on a facility, we would be going in additional times.
Okay. Now, what about lodging places, hotels? What are you looking for there?
Okay, lodging is a little bit different, and it's likely if lodging would also have a food establishment. So we're checking for food. The lodging part, we're checking the rooms, we're checking the laundromat on site to see if they're using the proper cleaning supplies, there's backflow in place. Up in the rooms, we're looking for general cleaning, we're looking for infestation, and you've heard of the bed bug issues that are popular right now. They come and go, they travel. Yeah. We're looking for sanitation with regard to the ice buckets, the cups, the coffee makers that are in the room. Are those being properly cleaned?
So you really have an eagle eye then on businesses. One other thing that we should touch on is that before a business is even built, environmental health gets involved.
Yes, it's very interesting, and it's part we really enjoy of our job. Facilities are required to get a building permit and submit plans to the building department, but we also do the plan review in the health department. We are looking for the requirements under the health delegation agreement with regard to equipment and layout and number of sinks and walk-in cooler space, a variety of things.
So getting the health department involved early is a good idea.
It makes the job easier for them because they know far enough ahead of time while they're designing the plan. Jeff told us we need to have several sinks in here and appropriately located.
Right.
And they can build that into their design rather than wait till they're starting to build and then find out that they have to make changes.
Lots of work in environmental health. Sherry Engelman, thank you so much for joining us on In Edina. All the best, and thanks for keeping us healthy
Hey,
and
thanks
safe.
so much. Thanks so much for your time.
Outdoor pools are closed for the season, but there's plenty of action going on in the pools indoors. And here to make sure they are healthy and safe to be in, the Assistant Sanitarian, Solveig Wilmot. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Yes, I'm glad to be
You
here.
are busy year-round.
That is absolutely correct. We have approximately 85 pools when the outdoor pools are in season, and it reduces to only about 75 pools when it's just the indoor pools that I address.
Wow.
I inspect facilities that are considered public, which includes condos, multi-unit apartments, the Edina Aquatic Center, Edinburgh Park. All of those are inspected annually at the minimum and pretty much quarterly for the city of Edina. We get out there.
So pool operators see you on a fairly regular basis then?
Yes, the pool operators, the people in charge of the swimming pools, they're the ones that will see me on a regular basis. I usually seek them out because while I'm in an inspection, there's lots of areas I might want to have access to, check the pump equipment, filtration systems, and I can't necessarily get in there unless they're with me.
So you're not just inspecting the water, you're looking at all the equipment around a pool.
The equipment and the pool shell and the pool environment, the decking, make sure there's no loose tiles or handrails are secure so patrons of the pool won't have problems getting out of the water if they want to. I also check the chemistry of the water to see that we have enough chlorine or bromine if they're using that as a disinfectant. Check the pH levels because that'll affect how the chemicals can function in the water. Mm-hmm. We check for total chlorine to make sure that all the chlorine isn't all used up, even though it looks like or smells like there's still chlorine. It might not have the right balance to be safe for killing off cryptosporidosis or even kids that are in there with Giardia. And those ailments that I just mentioned are usually diarrheal. And we really don't want people swimming in the water if you're recovering from diarrhea.
But let's mention them again because they are the top two health concerns in a water environment, right?
Well, cryptosporidosis for sure. And then
what is that
Giardia
exactly?
It's a bacteria that can get into your intestinal tract and then it can make you pretty sick. Besides just diarrhea, you can also get nausea with it. So,
And how does that show up in the water system?
from somebody that's entered the water and they're ill and they haven't fully recovered, maybe they think they're done after a day of
whatever
being
they have.
homesick,
Yeah.
but they really need to stay out of the water for a few more days.
Okay, and then the second common water problem?
On the illness side, it can be Giardia, but actually, if you want to talk water problem, it really is making sure that the chemistry is high enough to actively disinfect those illnesses that are in the water.
Oh, okay.
So if the pool operator is keeping track of the chemistry and keeping the chlorine up, it actually should help reduce the potential for an individual who's using the water to get sick from those things.
Okay, good. Now you have someone, a point person to go to. That's a regulation that was started decades ago, but that has made a really big difference.
That's correct. And we talked about them already. The certified pool operator, it's a trained individual who's gone through classes and actually oversees the pool. So there are lots of, the 85 pools that are in Edina, each one will have somebody that's designated to oversee that pool and make sure that they're keeping up with the filtration and if it needs backwashing in the filter system and the chlorine and the pH is adequately maintained.
You're also looking for hazards around pool areas. Toddlers, I think about, who might accidentally find themselves wandering by a pool situation.
Yeah, there's many parts of the pool that are looked at, and keeping the pool deck clear of tripping hazards, so water toys and things like that. If you're in a condo association, maybe you have a spot that everybody leaves all their exercise equipment and rules. Those are things actually we'd rather see put into a storage container so that the people that are bringing the little kids down, don't have to chase after them and worry that, oh my gosh, they're seeing that toy that fell into the water, now they're going after it. This kind of segues to our private pools, the backyard pools. A big safety factor for that is to have an adequate fence and a closing gate. In Edina, we do require that the gate systems on pool fencing around pools are self-closing, self-latching.
Okay.
And that's one of those annual maintenance things for residents to check on.
Now, residents are responsible for testing and making sure their own pool systems are healthy and safe. That's not your job, right?
That's correct. There is a line there that this is a private pool, so it's not really a public health side of things. Of course, individual operators in the back, the homeowners, are going to want to make sure that when they have guests over that they're keeping their chlorine levels adequate too, to make sure that everybody's safe there.
And there's plenty of information out there, and I'm sure you'd give them a hand or two if they're a new pool owner.
Absolutely, and many of them set up service with a pool company, and they're very good professional resources too.
Wonderful. Sylvia, I can tell you really like your work. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it, and we'll see you at the pool.
That'd be good.
With the winter chill in the air, more folks are moving indoors, and to be sure, the carbon monoxide isn't a problem. Assistant Sanitarian Jeff Brown is checking underground garages and other places. Jeff, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you have to go and check licensed facilities, is that right?
Correct. We inspect and license underground parking garages that are connected to dwelling units in the city.
Okay, so condominiums, for instance, or apartments?
Right. Could be condos, apartments, senior living centers. Even one of our hotels has underground heated parking that's connected to the hotel.
Okay, and so folks are parking and the cars are letting loose the carbon monoxide and you can't see it, smell it, or taste it, right?
Correct. It can be a problem. It can build up in the dwelling and actually move from the parking garage up into the dwelling areas where it can be a problem for people because they're eating, sleeping, and living there most of their lives. You can't see it, and it's removed generally by ductwork and fans that are installed in the garages.
Okay, and so the equipment is supposed to come on naturally and then just move that air through, is that right?
Right. We have a lot of range of styles of equipment. Some of our older facilities have real basic fan in one end of the garage and an opening in the other to create the draft that is needed to get the air through. Others have sensors and things that turn on when the carbon monoxide gets to a certain level. And some of the newer facilities that are large have very large fans that can almost create wind as it goes through the garage, removing.
And it's not just
contaminated
enough
air.
with the garage door going open and closed to move the air through?
It usually isn't. That helps a lot, but people in Minnesota tend to like to run the car in the winter and warm it up. So in the winter is when it's usually the biggest problem, and that's when we do our monitoring.
Okay, so you have to go out and inspect these dwellings. How often do you do this? And you bring a tester with you, right?
Right. We bring our handheld carbon monoxide detector, and we do it throughout the fall and winter months annually for each establishment. If we don't get to them in the fall, we'll do them January or February, something like that. Generally when the peak use of automobiles in the garages.
Critical time to check it. Now this little device is pretty handy and simple. You basically hit the button and it records what kind of data are you getting on
It's
it?
pretty much an immediate measurement of the carbon monoxide in parts per million in the area that I'm walking. So generally I'll walk the entire garage with the monitor, give it time to adjust and see what the levels are in the garage. Then we walk the hallways and common areas in the units themselves to see if any of the carbon monoxide is going from the garage to the dwelling areas.
And you're recording all this data along the way.
Right.
obviously.
We have an inspection form that we utilize to record that data.
Okay, and what's the safe number?
Well, our city code says 10 parts per million is permitted, or that's the max in the dwelling areas.
Okay, and you're not only checking just the carbon monoxide levels there in the building, you're also looking at the fans.
Right.
And you're looking at all the ductwork.
Right.
And if something goes wrong or something needs to be reported, what do you do?
Yeah, well, usually a lot of times there's a maintenance person on site or someone that's responsible that I meet with and go through the inspection with, or a management company. We have some management companies that operate 8 to 10 of our apartment complexes. So A lot of times they'll have a maintenance staff that can come out and resolve issues. If like plumbing repairs were done or electrical repairs or cable TV even was put in and they drill holes through the deck, the roof of the parking garage into a unit, that can create a way for air to move between the spaces. And we have to seal those up so they're airtight so you don't get air between the spaces. Other things like making sure doors don't get propped open all the time. And that provides an easy way for carbon monoxide to go from the garage to the dwelling
Yeah,
areas.
if I'm bringing groceries in, for instance, that's probably a common thing. I've left the door open.
Right, you see a chair or some object that's parked there, and people use it all the time to keep the doors
Now,
open.
you can't be in a dwelling every single day, which is
Right.
why having a point person at the building site is helpful for you.
Right, I generally, during an inspection, try to talk with the maintenance staff about you need to make sure that all the sensors are working. If they have sensors, sometimes they can, if there's power issues, they can have problems. That the timers are set right with daylight savings going back and forth. Sometimes the timers get off. Or a resident does something because they don't like the noise of a fan, or sometimes they run into the ducts with their cars, so the ducts collapse.
Yeah.
So they have to do maintenance year round when I'm not there,
Right,
obviously.
and residents can also play a part by asking questions, right?
Right. I mean, they can talk with their maintenance staff. I do get questions sometimes when I'm walking around. What are you doing? What's going on? And try to explain we're looking for carbon monoxide issues or air handling issues.
All right. Jeff, thanks so much for all your hard work on carbon monoxide testing, and we'll have you back in just a moment to talk more about multi-unit housing concerns. Well, we welcome back Solvi Wilmot along with Jeff Brown, Assistant City Sanitarians for Edina, to talk about some concerns that happen on multi-unit dwellings, basically. Solvi, let me start with you. There's actually a new rule that the city has adopted, fairly recent. Tell us a little bit about it.
That's correct. In April of this year, we did adopt International Property Maintenance Code. It's a little bit more of an elaborate regulation as to how a property should be maintained. The city of Edina did previously have a regulation on that. This one just does have a little more detail, and it creates actually more of a uniform standard that can be applied in the city, and if other communities adopt the same standard, there'd be the similarity going from one community to the next.
And as a potential resident, that protects me as well, because it kind of gives me a guarantee that there's at least a basic property maintenance standard from city to county to state, right?
That's correct. We want to keep our properties in a standard that's acceptable for everybody within and around the same community or multi-unit complex.
So sanitarians will go and inspect properties for healthy and safe living conditions, and all cities, I guess it's important to note, all cities have some properties that fall below that standard. What are some of the common problems that come up?
Well, the maintenance code addresses all properties, but in the focus of the multi-units, the common areas are on the maintenance of it, from simple maintenance to doorways functioning properly, to the more elaborate ones where the plumbing maybe has failed.
As one issue that comes up from time to time, pests, pest control, bed bugs in particular. Your
Right.
area.
We have had in the past a few issues with bed bugs in the city. They are becoming more of an emerging problem with more international travel. People move from place to place more often.
And the bugs come with them.
And the bugs come with them. So they have been an issue recently. We've dealt with them. They're not a disease-causing problem, but they are a nuisance. So they can be an infestation, and we do have to deal with them.
All right, so you want to make sure that the pests are under control. Now, there used to
Right.
be chemicals to treat those, but they took some of the harmful ingredients out, and so that's why
Right.
we see these bugs coming back.
DDT used to be a way that they dealt with them in the past, but that's no longer in existence. They can be abated using chemicals. It just requires multiple treatments because of how the life stages of bed bugs work.
Now, we're talking about multi-unit places like hotels or condominiums or apartments, right?
Right. It can be an issue in those areas, and it's a problem because it can go from neighbor to neighbor. Generally, what they do in an apartment complex is treat the unit that's affected, and then each neighboring unit and the floors above and below. So it could be a total of 9 rooms.
And that's basically for any pest, not just bed bugs.
Right.
All right. Hoarding. That seems to come up. We hear about it in the news every so often. What is it, and how do you detect that?
Right. Well, hoarding is an accumulation of items, materials, things that gets to be excessive. It can even include refuse and trash. Residents will find items that they want to be keeping for one purpose or another, and pretty soon it's out of control in their unit. They can block their aisleways, their accesses for egress, which means getting out of their unit in an emergency situation. It can also block people from being able to get to them to service them if they have an emergency situation. So it's part of a issue that we will look at and try to help them alleviate to a level where there would be access again to them. The bigger side of it is when it gets to be unclean, unsanitary, and that's with the
Garbage
refuse
conditions is going to be horrible.
and it can create more fruit flies, flies. Of course, rodents are going to look for that because it's a great food source. And definitely, those are immediate situations where we have to get some action going.
How do you find out about it? You don't just go and inspect anywhere for hoarding, right?
No, we don't. It is by complaint basis. Lots of it is reported either through medical personnel or police for whatever reason they've been in the dwelling. It can be a neighbor that smells something, notices a lot of fruit flies. Maybe in a condo situation, they're getting more rodents all of a sudden. Then we for sure will take a look at the property that they suspect and see if we can't get some remedy to the situation.
It's important to note, too, that hoarding can happen anywhere.
Absolutely. It's not just Edina. It's not just because of where you live. It's unfortunately because of a behavior problem. It's a single individual that has an issue.
Another problem that you inspect is mold, water conditions, water hazards in the home. Jeff, what are you looking for when you get a call on that?
Generally, when we get a call about mold, it's a moisture problem. Whether it's a plumbing issue or someone runs a humidifier in their room or the roof is leaking, generally mold is caused by a moisture issue. So that's what we try to address. Mold is a tough subject because it affects people differently. Some people are affected greatly, some not at all. So and we don't recommend testing for it. We basically look for the moisture issue and try to remedy that.
Now you're working with maintenance people then and or residents in situations like that. Mold is tricky because it sneaks up on you.
Right. Generally, maintenance personnel in a multi-unit building, like an apartment where there's tenants, if it's condominiums, they're owned, so you have to work with kind of a homeowner in that situation. So they can be a variety of situations. Sometimes all it takes is a phone call, a discussion of how it's going to be handled. Other times you have to be a little more, you have to handle the situation a little differently.
Now, once you identify a problem, and whether it's hoarding or mold or pests or whatever, do you go back and re-inspect?
Yeah, if we issue any kind of order, we'll have to verify that it's been completed. So.
Okay.
And sometimes the remediation can be just a day or two. Other times, if the scope of work is large, like replacing a roof or something like that, it'll have to be months.
And it may depend on the time of year too, right?
Right. If it's like I said with a roof, we've had it in the past where roofing can't be done in the winter, so tenants have been moved from one apartment to another, and then the roof is taken care of in the spring.
All right, so it's important that we have a standard, and we have a standard here in the City of Edina, the International Property Maintenance Code, and the city adopted it this year, and you see lots of different things, but you're willing to work with residents and owners of multi-unit housing areas to work out the problem so that everything's healthy and safe. I thank you so much for your work and helping us live healthy and safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whenever possible, we try to answer viewers' questions on In Edina. This month, Monty asks, does the health department still test individuals' drinking water? Well, the Tri-City William Lloyd Analytical Laboratory has been providing quality testing services for decades. The laboratory originally opened in Edina in 1967 to provide testing of drinking water for the cities of Edina, St. Louis Park, and Bloomington. Through the years, as new federal, state, and local standards were enacted, the laboratory continued to adapt and provide testing services to uphold the safety of these drinking water supplies. In 2002, the laboratory relocated to Bloomington's water treatment facility. Since that time, the testing services have expanded to include a greater variety of chemical and microbiological tests. If you have a question or need for any testing services, please contact the laboratory at 952-563-4904. Each month, we feature a volunteer whose time and skill helps others in the city of Edina. In keeping with our environmental health theme, this time we feature volunteer Mary Lavelle, a nutritionist who helps others stay healthy.
So, I have bulgur, I have tomato.
At home in her kitchen,
Wait a minute now, I gotta get my mint.
Mary Lavelle practices what she's been preaching.
You get over 3 times of the nutrients in brown rice that you do in white rice.
For almost 50 years.
I've been in this business for 47 years, and I am very worried. I'm very concerned.
Concerned because Lavelle thinks people don't know how to eat right, causing an alarming rate of obesity, diabetes, and other ailments that are easy to treat with the right ingredients.
They don't know serving portions, they don't understand fat, they don't understand sodium, and they're making it too hard.
Too hard until you take a lesson from Lavelle. The retired registered dietitian teaches young and old alike just how easy it is to have a healthy appetite, with helpful demonstrations from Mr. Potato Head.
This could be a carrot, this could be a radish, or a pea.
Plastic plates.
The plate is divided into 3 portions. This portion, half of the plate, is fruit and vegetable.
Or by serving her own homemade healthy recipes, like this tabbouleh salad to students in classrooms, churches, and clubs.
And I'm going to kind of mix those up a little bit, make it start looking pretty.
And it's healthy. For Lavelle, who believes she's making a difference.
If I can influence anybody to make a little change, that's very, very important and pleasing to me.
And for her students, learning how to eat a nutritional diet so we look and feel healthy each and every day.
And it's beautiful and tasty.
If you know a volunteer we should feature on In Edina, please let us know. Send us an email to edinamail@ci.edina.mn.us. Well, we hope you've enjoyed our broadcast. Thanks to all of our guests for all their information on environmental health. Also, special thanks to Broadview Media for letting us bring you this broadcast right from their building. Until next time, you've been watching In Edina. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. Thanks for watching. Make it a great day.